I'm sure he posted this thinking we'd see it as a joke, but I don't buy it. This man is never beating the cyborg allegations. So, last year I posted a video at the start of the Premier League season asking a simple question: can anybody stop Manchester City? As we know, the answer was no. As we hit the 24-25 season, I'd like to run that question back. And we're here to have some serious discourse, so please don't spam 115 in the comments, other jokes are welcome. Plus, we have to wait until January for that anyway. City have had a great, successful preseason, and despite the fact that they've just lost one of the greatest backup attackers in world football, I don't think this will affect them too much, because this was a backup attacker, and by the looks of things, they have many waiting in the wings. Literally. However, things are looking a little different. This could potentially be Pep Guardiola's final season at the Etihad with his contract in its final year. It's likely De Bruyne's last season if he even ends up staying past the current window, which I think he will. I think we'll see the rise of a couple of youth prospects too. Welcome to another episode of Does Calvin Phillips even exist at this point? Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Slowly but surely, Man City have swept up support around the world. As things stand, they are bigger than ever. We are glad to see a lot of blue shirts. When we started 7 or 8 years ago, there was not much, and now, because of how these players have behaved in the past, it's really nice to come to stadiums and see a lot of blue shirts. It's a lot of pride. This was Guardiola on the support that City got in New York against Milan at the end of July. The rise of Manchester City in popularity and stature around the world has been unprecedented. They've been consistently successful for about 13 years now. I'm counting all the way back to that FA Cup win in 2011, and I don't see the growth in that success waning anytime soon. In 5, 10, 15, 20 years, all these new fans will become diehards, just like how in the late 90s and early 2000s, people started supporting Man United and Arsenal, and then 20 years later, they grew up with just depression, disappointment, trust issues, abandonment issues, and never mind, just one of those clubs. But in America specifically, it's now become incredibly evident that Man City is leading the race to gain the trust and support of new football fans, Premier League fans at least. Time zones used to be a big issue. Regardless, viewership is increasing year on year as people are willing to wake up earlier and earlier to watch these live matches. Above that, because they're the best team, they get the most favorable time slots when applicable. People queue up and spend hundreds of dollars just to watch them train when they're on tour. John Cena and Erling Haaland are apparently best friends. Jack Grealish met Rihanna.
It should have been me!
I lasered in on America here, but the Manchester City-fication of global audiences is a very real thing. To the modern football club, the international audience is king. To the dismay of local audiences, sure, but these international audiences are the ones that allow the entire machine to keep working, and City know that. They're just capitalizing on it. City are the best of the best, and what do people like to see? Exactly that. Winning everything will do that to you. It's only up from here. But all of this growth is dependent on City being able to keep winning. And, with Pep Guardiola in his final season of his contract, who knows what could happen? He could very well leave, which wouldn't be ideal if you're a City fan, but would be met with widespread joy across the planet. However, depending on where you sit, it may not be time to celebrate just yet. If you follow Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer, apparently Pep might be being prepped to take the England job. Just imagine Pep Guardiola lifting the World Cup with Harry Kane right next to him. The world would immediately cease to exist. But that's thinking too far ahead. In the interim, we have the 24-25 season to worry about. The Community Shield. Against Manchester United, City were their usual selves and commanded the ball right from the start. Oscar Bob is a real player, man. I said a couple times that I thought City were going to struggle when Mahrez left and that was announced. That ball-carrying ability he offered on the right, more often than not, was sublime. And even though they haven't really struggled that much, I mean, let's be real, they aren't really able to play the same way that they did when Riyad Mahrez was in that side on that right hand. When Foden's played there, he plays really well, he carries the ball well, but he does tend to rush things a bit, I think. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Whenever Bernardo Silva plays there, he tends to cut inside quite a lot instead of hugging the line when it might be better to stretch the play, I think. What do I know? But when I've seen Oscar Bob play there, I saw in the Community Shield quite a bit, he was sticking to his position on that flank, and It paid dividends. He cooked Dalot quite a bit, and then he also provided the assists for Bernardo Silva, right? Maybe he can fill in at that role, and he'll only get better. He just turned 21. I don't know how much game time he's actually going to get this season due to how competitive City's front line is, especially with their most recent and only signing, Savinho, which we'll talk about just now. But he is my pick for the player in Man City's squad who's 21 or under that's going to have a real breakthrough season. If he gets the minutes, that is. Rico Lewis was keeping Rashford honest and making some very interesting forward runs. I think he's going to be a very interesting prospect. James McCarthy and Nico O'Reilly showed really good ability and enthusiasm too. I hadn't seen either of them play before that Community Shield, but I'm guessing that that's going to change soon. Although I must say that City's domination, it didn't last too long. Very uncharacteristically, after about 20 minutes, United just grew and grew into that game. And probably could have scored 2 in that first half, a couple more in the second half. More so in the second half. Garnacho was brilliant, as was Bernardo Silva when he came on, to be fair. You can't really be too upset about a Community Shield lost on penalties. I mean, the game doesn't really mean that much. I'm not saying that because United lost and City won, of course. City weren't at their best, but that's to be expected. No Rodri, no Foden, no Walker. Silva and De Bruyne didn't start. Alvarez has just left. When it comes to Rodri, we all know that that's the weak point in their squad if he doesn't play, so very curious to see what happens if he gets injured or suspended at any point in the season. But the big headline here is that Julian Alvarez is gone. £70 million. At first, when I saw this, I thought this is not a good deal for City because they're losing Alvarez, only 24 years old, amazing player, probably the best backup player of any team in all of Europe. So good that he can probably start in most teams in all of Europe. But it's also quite nice to see, I guess, because City do have a good track record of letting players leave when they want to, which is nice to see. That happened with Gundogan, obviously Mahrez, more players. And it's not like they don't have adequate backup, to the backup. Haaland, if he stays fit or semi-fit, will outscore everyone in the league, and if he gets injured, Guardiola can always call upon De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Oscar Bob as a false 9, on paper at least, because City rarely play according to their actual starting lineup on paper. They'll just do their usual death by 1,000 cuts passing game plan. And just on Alvarez, from his perspective, I guess he simply just needs more game time and prolonged experience. You look at the likes of Lautaro Martinez, who's the leading man at Inter and Argentina, ending up as the top scorer in every competition, being the main man. He scored that goal in the Copa America final. Alvarez needs to become that. He should become that, and I think he will. And also, he's probably just a little bit bored. He's won every competition that he's participated in for River Plate, for Man City, for Argentina, and now he's going to Atletico Madrid in La Liga. Speaking of Atletico, what the hell is going on over there? Has Diego Simeone decided that enough is enough? These guys are going crazy in the transfer market. Before signing on Julian Alvarez, they had already signed Alexander Sørloth and Robin Lenormand, both battle-tested players familiar with La Liga and what goes on there. Lenormand was sublime at the Euro. As you guys know, I usually only really pay attention to the Premier League and the Bundesliga, but I think this season I may have to shift my priorities. Real Madrid, of course, are looking stronger than ever. Atletico are making their own statements. It's looking quite mad. And Barcelona have just signed on an attacking midfielder for £60 million that, apparently they didn't have a couple weeks ago. It's strange that showed up out of nowhere. It's pretty cool when you find that much money just lying around. Reports were saying that they offered RB Leipzig zero money up front. It's very strange. In any case, Dani Olmo is a fantastic player, but I feel like they probably could have redirected those funds towards a defensive midfielder. But hey, I don't know, man. Back to City. Savinho, a Brazilian winger that was playing for Girona and lighting the league on fire all of last season, particularly in the first half of the year. He's left-footed and very direct, so he's going to add a lot to this Man City side, especially when it comes to assists. He had 10 in La Liga last season, and with Haaland running in the box, he's got everything he needs. Now, I'm assuming that Jeremy Doku is going to, commandeer that left-hand side and be the left winger going forward more consistently. He was coming off the bench a lot last year. He's definitely earned that. I won't be surprised if Savinho also fits in there from time to time because that's where he played most of the season last year at Girona as he was making a name for himself. But from what I can see from his time before at Troyes, PSV and Atletico Mineiro, he's predominantly a right-sided player. And speaking of Troyes and Girona, fun fact, if you didn't already know, they're part of the City football group. Shocker. I know. He was actually a Troyes player at first and was on loan at Girona and PSV and then just transferred to Man City for £30 million. Essentially, it's a transfer from City to City. This transfer inevitably brought up a lot of questions regarding its legitimacy. Was it done in good faith? Was it done in line with transfer regulations? The most talked about being fair market value, a stipulation put in place to ensure that clubs don't just cook the books. UEFA concluded that the transfer was legitimate and fair, so the story should end there. But, of course, it does not. Girona qualified for the UCL. Amazing stuff. So did Man City. Two teams owned by the same entity competing in the same competition last time I checked was a conflict of interests. But again, UEFA deemed that this was not an issue, as they deemed there was enough separation between the two teams to say that there wasn't anything nefarious going on. Oh, and by the way, in case anyone wants to call me out on saying that or anything, because I'm a United fan, United are owned by Ineos, who also own Nice, and who are also in the Europa League. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a widespread thing. And then that brings us to 115. So what can we actually say about this? The answer is not much. The people who can do anything about it are investigating, and like I said at the beginning of the video, apparently we're going to get a verdict in January of 2025. So we'll see. If it comes back that they're innocent, you gotta respect that. If it comes back that they're not, the pitchforks will come out, I'm pretty sure. So back to the question from the start of the video, can anybody stop Manchester City? And honestly, from where I'm standing, I don't think so. There's a chance, but it's only a small chance. They only made one signing because they only really needed to make one signing. Their squad is already pretty much complete. Like I said, bar anything happening to Rodri, I think they'll be fine. They have enough in their squad to make up and make things go right for them. The other team and main competitors to them is of course Arsenal, and Arsenal are improving rapidly. They improved last year as they did the year before that, but as they improve, City just match them and then go above. I don't see any reason why they won't do that again. I know it's a shallow prediction, but it is what it is. I don't really know about Liverpool. I can't put my finger on them and how they're going to play. They did a rebuild last season and they competed, and now it's going to be an entirely different thing now, so watch out for a video on that. And then we have Chelsea are a mess. Man United are all looking good. Ineos have decided to right the wrongs of the past, it seems. They're on a bit of a mission, right? They signed Euro, they signed Xerxes, although Euro got injured, and as did Rasmus Højlund. Fun times. But Matthijs de Ligt is signed and has Mazraoui, and apparently there's another midfielder on the way. It's probably Manuel Ugarte or someone else, Frenkie de Jong, who knows. But yeah, it's a good time to be a United fan from a perspective. That works. But they're not going to challenge. Aston Villa, in my eyes, are the third biggest threat in the entire league. They do have Champions League football this season, but I don't see any reason why they're not going to step up. They did have Conference League football last year, so they've played midweek fixtures before and done pretty well, as they did last season. Newcastle might be making a comeback, I think. Just watch out for them. Spurs have their second season under Ange Postecoglou now, and of course they did win the Premier League in October last year. Anything could happen. But just to, put a nail in this, no. I don't think anyone can compete with Man City. There's an outside chance, but it's not that big of a chance. That's pretty much all you're going to get from me in terms of predictions. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day. Bye.